Is there a good introduction?
We definitely don't have a set intro yet. I think it's weird though, right? Like, I know what podcast I'm listening to, and I think sometimes the intro is just...
You do, but what about the listener?
I think so very rarely do we find ourselves...
You know because you're in it.
Oh, I know that I'm in the Home Alone Minute, a minute-by-minute breakdown of the movie Home Alone, presented by the Home Alones, America's maybe best band about the movie Home Alone. I know where I am. I got to think that anyone listening also knows where they are. And when I listen to a podcast and they do the whole intro, it's some of them are very scripted and formulaic. It does feel nice to go into that rhythm and hear it. But I know where I am. I know who I'm listening to. I know who the guest is.
And who is the guest today?
Nobody. It's just me and you, dog. Do you mind if I call you dog?
Oh, hell no, dog. What's up?
That could be our podcast where we just quote videos that we watched on the internet years ago. It would be very popular, actually.
We're right in the window, right? Hey, kid, I'm a computer. Stop all the downloading.
Just
cut that out.
Just Group X and Homestar Runner, and that's all we do.
Oh, way.
No, we're here to talk about minute 4 of Home Alone.
And what a minute it is.
It's stuffed with exposition.
I know this is going to sound a little bit meta, but in reviewing this, both with you last week after the podcast, but also kind of through the week, at no point did I ever feel myself rolling my eyes at myself for doing what I was doing. And I thought that I would have at this point. But they're continuing to validate just how necessary this podcast is.
I had the same thought. Like, do we mention how crazy of an idea this is? But that sort of admits that, like, it's stupid. But I don't know if it's stupid. This movie's worth this kind of inspection.
Well, Wild and Crazy aren't the same things, because if they were, Wild and Crazy Kids would be redundant. But they're two different things. And it's a wild idea, but I don't think it's a crazy idea.
You're right.
And it's certainly not a stupid idea.
I think one thing that we are discovering is that when you stop at the minute, you're not at the end of a scene. Sometimes you're not even at the end of someone's line of dialogue. I think we start in the middle of Kevin speaking, and we end right in the middle of Megan speaking. So we're kind of picking right up where Kevin left off, explaining to his dad that he can't make ornaments out of the old ones with dry worm guts stuck on them. And
just going back to how we were talking about how John Hurt is probably the most like his character, that's so natural to my new fishhooks.
It's a great delivery.
I want to praise him for being an incredible actor, but I also am like, how far off is that from something you said that morning?
This is a great conflict, too, in that they're both right. Peter...
Right, he can't make fish...
Yeah, exactly.
He can't make ornaments out of the old ones.
And then Peter clearly doesn't want ornaments made of his new fish hooks.
Well, because there's new ones. Yeah, there's no... Because I said so, there's none of that. Like, he appreciates that it's a sound, at least logically, it's a sound argument. He doesn't necessarily respond. He doesn't have time to, because Kate is over the both of them.
That look that she gives Peter here is so great. And it goes back to what you were saying last episode about one parent sort of passing off the discipline, like the you handle this.
It's like how when people who are primarily speaking English have a hard time understanding languages like Japanese, because almost the exact same syllable, but with a different intonation, is a completely different word. And in the same way, married people, when they communicate, all you have to say is the other person's name, but there are 30 different ways that you can say that.
For sure.
And the way that she says,
Peter, get this kid out of my face before I choke him.
She's like, I've already told him I'm on the phone. He sat there reading a French book. It doesn't matter that he didn't burn down the joint. Get him out of here.
I've been sassed one too many times.
But before they get him out of there, I did want to give some props to set design, because people forget that you have to take photos generally before a film is made.
And this house is just packed with family photos, right? It's
so many photos.
Silly with them. They're just all over the place. There's a particularly handsome portrait of Buzz on the stairwell. That's so great because it's so not who Buzz is as a character, but they clearly paid a lot of money for that photography session. Clearly all of the siblings were sitting there watching him take the photos. They had to do it one by one. Kate and Peter are spending hundreds of dollars regularly, multiple times a year on family photos.
Yeah, they're responsible for keeping their local Olin Mills in business.
Did you go to Olin Mills?
Yeah.
You and your little brother?
Weekly. You know those kind of early internet era videos where people were like, oh, I took a photo of myself every day for however many years.
You had that at Olin Mills.
Right. My mom sorted that out.
Jerod got a new haircut. I'm going to take him down to the Olin Mills.
Exactly. Yeah, so I have a record of, any given day from age 0 to, 12.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that being sort of like a grandma thing. I don't know if she was always the one taking me, but I got the impression that grandma's the one who wanted the photos. My parents didn't really care too much. They know what I look like, but to get me frequently preserved in my state, I think grandma was footing that bill pretty often.
This will sound like the old man rant, but my son's grandma can get a photo of him this morning and then a photo of him this afternoon.
Yeah, talk about a flip book, right?
Oh man, I'm trying not to go overboard with the things that traumatized me, but it's hard to break the cycle.
Well, smartphones make it pretty easy too. Imagine having to get the pictures developed and mail them.
Yeah,
4 times a day.
That's what kind of comes to mind when you see this mantelpiece in, again, rich signal. We have a fireplace in our bedroom.
There's pictures on the mantle of the fireplace. There are pictures, framed pictures on the nightstand of the family, all up and down the stairs, all along the hallway.
Because in this minute, it's the first time you see that big family portrait that Kevin looks at much later in the film. So we know that photo quite well, but along the mantle, you see what you assume are like, individual of, Lenny, Buzz, etc. I think there's like a couple photo there as well. I think there's a Peter Kate one there that's more like candid selfie type of that era. Again, just props to the props.
The properties department. Yeah,
because we have hindsight, right? Like, to your point, what Buzz is about because you've seen a well-curated 90 minutes of what Buzz is about. Whereas months before this is filmed, the props department who's like, we need family photos of these people who are, here's the 3-line characterization of this person. You're like, okay.
Now, it's the family photos that are more impressive to me because I imagine that Buzz, as an actor, has headshots, that he's got his own family portraits, and they can just do a lot of borrowing if it's the single portraits. But to get the whole gang together, even if you're editing it together, that takes some time. And I think Jerod, are we looking at some unsung heroes of minute 4?
I think so. Because we not only see their work in the bedroom, but we see it on the staircase, kind of going along the walls there as well. Props are killing it.
Props to the props.
And I wish credits were still rolling so I could actually have a name. But let's make this commitment to ourselves that we will get that for the show notes. What do you say?
And let's also commit to, when we get to the end credits, that we exhaustively talk about each one for much longer than anyone expects us to.
Committed. We'll see you guys in 101 weeks.
2 years.
So, just chronologically moving here, we've decided that we want Kevin out. And luckily, we have
Who should arrive?
We have someone rapping on the door.
It's good old Aunt Leslie,
who does a pretty valiant effort in holding Kevin for a moment, who she initially mistakes as a voltage adapter.
Here's your voltage adapter. Not in the script, by the way.
Ooh, yeah, let's check back in with the screenplay.
Yeah, this scene with Leslie is a little bit different. For starters, she tells Peter and Kate that there's a police officer downstairs. And then they ask what he wants. And then I think Kevin butts in. Obviously, it's not in the film. And I think we realize we don't need it because the film is perfect. So I can understand the inclination to logically get that in there, right? Why wouldn't someone come up and tell the owners of the house that there's a police officer there? That makes perfect sense. Someone should do that. Do we need it for the movie? Not really. So it's out. It's gone.
To be a fly on the wall during that conversation, because it seems that was cut on the day, but probably not from the actors themselves, because the sort of order of asking about voltage adapter is reversed.
Yeah. And, you know, a movie finds new life in an edit too. So it's possible that it did get said. It was shot that way. And then they made a different choice when they were cutting it together. But Aunt Leslie has a very classic aunt kind of line for Kevin. You're getting heavy.
Which implies that she's not only held him before,
but it's been a while.
It's been long enough that she notices the weight difference.
I think is it not just like sort of a polite thing to say to a kid? Oh, you're getting so
That's
big.
the polite thing to say, yes. The impolite thing to say is you're getting so heavy.
I do think it's kind of funny that Aunt Leslie is the one who tells him to go pack his suitcase.
I think it's perfect because, as we discover sort of later on, that his suitcase is going to get packed for him, so he doesn't have to pack it. But in her home, her kids are...
The children pack their suitcases.
So
he's taking this command as an official charge because an adult told it to him, but he doesn't know how to do it.
Well, it's great writing because it's not just following the chronology of what should happen or what's supposed to happen. It's even just this like family dynamic of, tell me if I'm reading a bit too much into this. Does it not also establish that he is perceived as less resourceful than he is? Because he's never been taught how to pack a suitcase, but he clearly is resourceful, as we find out later, but also as we've just been establishing in these previous minutes with the ornament creation and the glue gun and that sort of thing. So he's not helpless in the way that people seem to think he is, or maybe his brothers, sisters, cousins think he is.
Yeah, I see it as Aunt Leslie sort of overestimating Kevin, right? He really can't pack a suitcase. He really is helpless at this point in a variety of life skills. Packing his suitcase. At the end, Buzz says he can't even tie his shoes. So I think this is Aunt Leslie just sort of, I mean, this has got to be true for a lot of relatives who maybe go a little while without seeing you. You see him again, and then all of a sudden their perception of you is a little off. Either they think that you still like Pokemon when you haven't looked at your Pokemon cards in 8 months. Or they overestimate. They're like, okay, Kevin, you driving yet? It's like, no, I'm still 8.
Well, I think you're right. This kind of goes back to his place in the middle.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, he's older than my young children, so he can pack a suitcase. But he's not old enough to watch the movie, right? Because Uncle Frank said no. So he's in this middle ground where he can't really pack his suitcase, but he's independent.
And that shot where he repeats her, he says, pack my suitcase. I love that he's alone there. He's all by himself, and it's
with the rest of us.
It's the beginning of, what do I do when I'm on my own? And at this point in the film, we're in antithesis, right? Like he doesn't buy into all the stuff he's going to learn along the way. So he feels lost. Someone tells him to pack a suitcase, and he doesn't say, okay, I'll figure it out. He just complains and whines and goes and finds someone to pack a suitcase for him.
This is the first time someone breaks the fourth wall. Am I right?
Are you talking like about Kevin, like looking at the camera?
Yeah, not in like history, but like in this film.
I don't know if it's fourth wall. Like he's not looking. Is he looking directly into the camera, or is he just?
My recollection is that he's looking straight ahead.
Okay, I don't see it as a Ferris Bueller-y, like talking to us situation, though, right? Do you?
I don't know if I see it as cheeky as a Ferris Bueller.
You just revealed that you married a British woman.
Are they the only people who say cheeky? I feel like that's.
I don't say cheeky. No, that's it.
Okay.
That's a word.
That's fair.
That's a word in your household, not mine.
Well, Ferris Bueller is in many ways cheekier than Kevin McAllister. So I could take it either way. I could take it as the camera happens to be at his perfect 12 o'clock looking at him doing what is a 1,000-yard stare that happens to look.
That's how I see it.
You see like a 1,000-yard stare right into the frame, but the camera happens to be capturing it at his 12 o'clock.
But what now you have me thinking of all the times where he is sort of looking at us in a way.
Well, because the one that I immediately go to is I Made My Family Disappear, the second time.
There's also the moment after he scares Marv away and he mouths the line, keep the change, you filthy animal, for no one but us.
That one I relate to, though, because as a kid, your imagination is pretty well. You're like, you're playing with figures and like fighting and stuff. It's just, you're not afraid to be, like, you're not performative, obviously, but you're also not afraid to make sounds when people aren't around because you're not afraid to perceive yourself as insane.
He doesn't say it along with him, with the movie, though. He just mouths it. He like lip syncs with the film. We'll get into it.
You don't think he's just having fun with it?
Classic Home Alone minute, getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we haven't even watched his discovery of that yet. The ice cream's not out yet. Like, whew. So we're at suitcase packing. Everyone's packing their suitcase.
Yeah.
Tracy needs shampoo.
Tracy needs some shampoo. She can't believe in a house with this many people, there's no shampoo.
I can't believe that someone who made an error and did not pack what they needed for a long international trip is blaming everyone but themselves. I do love the I don't live here applies not only externally but internally as well.
You think Fuller's having a bit of an existential crisis in that moment?
He's like, okay, if Joe Pesci had asked me, it'd be one thing, but like, I don't live here.
It's true. It's true.
Like that's an exasperated little boy.
Yeah, is Fuller gonna know where the shampoo is?
And again, if he's even younger and in that like not pack his own suitcase level, he wouldn't even know where his packed shampoo is.
Maybe it speaks to Tracy's desperation.
So it's not that she thought that he would know. She's just like, I'm going to ask every human face I come across.
Yeah, because she's looked high and low and there's no shampoo, which would probably imply that it's packed. Someone's already put it in a suitcase. You're fine, Tracy.
Also, you don't think that they'll have some wherever you go? Like, aren't they staying at Uncle Rob's house?
Yes, but Uncle Rob's house has Rob and his wife in it right now.
And maybe some guest shampoos.
I do love that Rob's place has a view of the Eiffel Tower, just in case you needed to be sure that you're in Paris.
So we leave Kevin alone a minute, not home alone, but at least we stop bothering him via the fourth wall breakage. People are scouring for shampoo. Things are crazy. Fuller does not live there.
We're meeting all of the family members down there. It's just a sea of cousins and siblings.
All the people that 2 minutes ago we were just getting the visuals of. Now everyone's getting a line.
It's introducing a lot of people, and what's done nicely is that Joe Pesci sort of anchors it. Everybody who walks by goes through him. So we get the motif of like no one actually lives here. So you're not going to get a straight answer out of any of us. But you're also sort of slowly picking up on who's who, what's going on. There's all these really quick bits of information that if you're really paying attention, it all works. Tracy is the first. I think Tracy gives Joe Pesci the best. Yeah, but they don't live here.
Yes, I would agree.
Her sort of like, I'm too busy for you. I'm a little sassy.
Hers is also the best acted. Because
I kind of agree. Yeah,
there are a couple of moments here where you get a little. You're not taken out of it, but you get a little bit of like, you're acting. You're like waiting to say your line.
But Tracy nails it.
Tracy nails it.
But then Heather asks Tracy about the pizza.
But you know who ordered it?
Buzz did.
Which is a detail that you don't know you're supposed to be listening for at this point. But man, does that matter later.
It's definitely a treat for people like us watching it for the 50th time.
It rewards the rewatch because, man, that is good.
It's great because it's a deliberate slight of Buzz to not order enough cheese pizzas.
Yep.
And to immediately go for the cheese pizza when it arrives.
That's some pure evil that is not captured in his photos, in those sweet childlike photos.
Exactly. So then Joe Pesci asks Heather if her parents are home, and she sort of apologetically says, my parents live in Paris. So she's sort of trying to be helpful, but she just doesn't have the answer that Joe Pesci's looking for because Joe Pesci's not asking the right question.
Well, and she responds in the most mature way, which is not literally. Because she's like, I know the answer. I know the question under the question. So I'm going to help you get there in that my parents don't live here. So you're barking up the wrong tree.
And again, everybody else is expecting someone else to help this guy. Everybody else is assuming that the next person who's going to walk by is going to give this guy whatever he seems to be looking for.
Yeah.
So then Sandra comes by.
Mm-hmm. Generous with her time. She seems to be stopping, at least for a moment.
But is the rudest. She has the best shirt.
She does.
That shirt is wild.
Not crazy, but wild. Do you think she could be related to Donnie Jeffcoat?
I think she dated Omar Gooding for a while. That's the rumor on the street.
So Sandra is the trigger for one of our favorite lines.
All kids, no parents. Probably a fancy orphanage.
That's such an over-the-top line, but is so good and is something that a Joe Pesci type would just say.
Our so good count is at 1.
I'm surprised it's not higher.
It goes back to something that I mentioned earlier, is that in this moment, our point of view is with Joe Pesci. We're on his side. We want to win for him. We don't know he's a bad guy yet. Right now, all he is a victim of this crazy family. So when 3 different people walk by and don't give him a straight answer, we like that he's got a little smart ass quip about what this house is like.
Well, because up until we see him again much later, we assume he's the audience proxy. So we would be fed up as well.
Exactly.
It's like, who lives where? And where are they now?
And notice that Sandra gives 2 answers to him that are technically true. Are they at home? No. Yeah, they're at the house. Uncle Frank is right behind them.
Well, and this is what I was saying about Heather's mature answer, because Heather understands the question underneath the question. Sandra is just answering the question.
Hyper literal here.
Right.
She could throw this guy a bone and say, oh, we're visiting. My dad's over there watching a black and white movie that's too mature for the young children. Let me go grab him for you real quick. Or, oh, my uncle owns this house. Let me go grab him for you. Nobody does that.
I'm less surprised that no one was helpful and more surprised that none of these kids just like raised a flag. Not like a, oh, let me go get him for you, but more like a, there's a person I don't know who's asking a bunch of questions up front. I'm going to go to my mom and or dad and be like, hey, what's the deal here? Because I don't see any adults interacting with this person. Like, I feel like I'm raising this through the chain of command.
It's a house full of people without any empathy at all. So I totally buy that they would get so wrapped up in themselves that none of them would look for Kevin in the morning.
You'd think that being orphans, they would have bigger hearts. Knowing how poorly they've been treated.
It is a fancy orphanage.
It's a very fancy orphanage. Daddy Warbucks upstairs with his fireplace in his bedroom.
So after this, we cut to what we're assuming is Jeff's room, but we're looking at bunk beds here. So is this possibly Jeff and Kevin's room?
If we're talking about the list of things that I would like to, by the end of this podcast, validate with someone from set, I think this is pretty high up there. Because you and I have talked about how we never see Kevin's room, but I think it's possible that this is Kevin's room because he shares it with Jeff.
It seems like it. We got bunk beds. It's kind of hard to discern what's in the background. We see there's some pictures pinned to the wall. There's some stuff on the shelves and stuff like that. So it's really kind of hard to get a beat on the personality of the person who lives in this room or the people who live in this room. Buzz's room, full of personality.
Oh yeah.
But this one is a little less deliberate in what's in there, maybe.
Which I think is indicative of a shared room. So again, props to props in that way, because a shared room is a common space. So yeah, you might have a couple of things strewn about, but it's almost like a micro version of the diffusion that's happening in the rest of the house. You might have something on the desk that's yours, or that's not yours rather. And Jeff's like, oh, I think that's Kevin's. And Kevin's like, oh, I think that's Jeff's. It's just no one's. It's just there.
Sure. So it kind of becomes this little station of unremarkable pieces.
Right. Whereas
Buzz's room is filled with iced tea posters and a tarantula.
It's his personality. Yeah, we see his personality in his room, whereas this room it's a common area.
Well, and they're younger kids too. How old do you think Jeff is?
38.
In the movie.
Not the actor who was playing him at the time. I have to adjust because seeing him as a kid, I perceive him as much older. So I'm like, oh, well, he's older than however old I am right now. But I could call him 14.
So I think Jeff is maybe our biggest departure from what the screenplay describes.
Do tell.
Well, I think we mentioned last episode that in the screenplay, Kevin is described as being 7 years old. So we're a year off for Kevin. But for Jeffy Poo here, they have him 9 years old. So this is a completely different approach.
So I think that's more just like a visual thing, right? Like they just want to make it more clear that he's older than Kevin. Because if you get a 9-year-old acting with a 7-year-old, the 9 could possibly look younger than the 7. So it's more just like visual certainty that he's like the older, more aggressive one, more confident.
It's probable that he just had a great audition. Don't have the IMDb trivia in front of me, and nor do I trust it too often. But it's very possible that he read for Buzz, didn't get Buzz, but they liked him so much that they made him Jeff.
So you don't think that they auditioned a ton of like 14-year-old boys? Is it not also possible that they did like a round of like 9, 10, 11s, and they were like, these kind of look too close to Kevin. We need someone who's like visually older.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That could have been the route that they went. In terms of it's interesting because the script said he's lugging a large canvas duffel bag. So that detail remains intact.
It does.
A lot of the small details like that, and I think, and maybe those are easy for a prop department to sort of fulfill. Heather is in a Northwestern sweatshirt in the script. So that's an easy sort of like, checklist kind of thing to get onto the film. But his description is he's stocky and build, aggressive and confident. He's mildly aggressive towards Kevin, but I don't know if it's an apt description of him.
Yeah,
he's not stocky.
No, he's not stocky. I think they're leaning more into the aggressive and confident because he's fiery, I would say. And I'm not just saying that because of his hair.
That's what it seems like.
The duffel bag detail is nice because you assume that they keep luggage and bags elsewhere. So he's taking his duffel bag to his room to fill it with his stuff.
What's interesting is that Jeff could absolutely just unzip that duffel bag and show Kevin everything that he packed. It would take 30 seconds. His little brother would know how to do something. Look, you need this many pairs of underwear. You need some socks. You probably need like 2 pairs of pants. You probably need a nice shirt for the dinners. You need a couple t-shirts, pajama pants. And I'm going to go get my toothbrush. Like, it would be so easy to tell Kevin how to pack a suitcase right here in that moment.
Yeah, not the behavior of someone fiery.
Because there's no empathy in this family.
Even when we get to the sympathetic responses to Kevin of, I told Kevin tough. Like, recognizing that someone else told someone tough, and there's this weird, like, sympathetic response. Like, they're not even being empathetic to each other, even though they agree that they should be telling Kevin tough. There seems to be animosity somehow between the three of them, even though there are only 2 positions.
Yeah, you do sense some tension in the household between everyone, which is what they're doing with Tracy looking for the shampoo, no one knowing if the pizza got ordered, who ordered the pizza, Peter and Kate, both too busy to discipline a child. Like, there's some stress here.
There's something to be said for the density of lines here, because Megan telling him tough, and if I can borrow this quote that you put down, which is, "The dope was whining about a suitcase. What am I supposed to do?" There's a lot baked into that. Not only how she feels about the interaction, but how she feels about Kevin, how comfortable she feels talking about Kevin that way to Jeff.
Right in front of Kevin. It's one of the first names that we get ascribed to Kevin. He's a dope.
Should we be tracking that?
I think I'm trying to keep track of the different things that he gets called. Cheek face is in the next minute, I believe. Hot preview.
Ooh. Spoiler.
The dope was whining about a suitcase.
Just for continuity question that I have to ask. When would he have been whining about the suitcase?
So, in between, Leslie sets him down, tells him to pack the suitcase. And when we come back up to Jeff, maybe Kevin's room, quite a bit unfolded downstairs.
Yeah, we established that no parents are anywhere.
So I can imagine an exchange between Kevin and Megan that says, "I need to pack my suitcase. I don't know what to do." And Megan says, "Tough."
Goes on her
And then he
merry way.
goes, "You're right." So he goes over to Jeff. He says, "Tough." That's what Megan said. What did I say? You told Kevin tough. We had time. We had time to get that done.
You're right. You're right.
It's a perfect film. No flaws.
No flaws. So, unsung heroes, I think clearly established. Property.
Yes. Property master.
Yeah. Okay. Who have we not heard from yet?
In terms of the family?
Yeah.
Uncle Frank. Haven't met Uncle Frank yet, and we haven't heard from Buzz.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, like we haven't heard from Buzz or Lenny or there are a few folks that we're missing. So there's a lot to be unfolded here in the next few minutes.
Yeah. Rod.
Yeah. It's funny because he doesn't have a ton of screen time, but he does get kind of burned into your memory. Because
he has a presence about him.
Yeah, there's that establishing, there are like a couple of establishing scenes that kind of run together there with the South Bend Shovel Slayer lore and the tarantula and that whole thing.
Rod's there to plant some seeds, baby. He's a foreshadowing machine.
They got nude beaches.
Not in the winter. Ooh, classic Home Alone minute. Getting ahead of ourselves.